In the course of the morning alone, we've seen quite a range of conversation about what or how we go about structuring our electric industry in the future. Some of you may know who EPRI is and some may not. We're basically a nonprofit R&D organization that looks at the electric industry. Our client base can be divided into three lumps. U.S. utilities, about 60% of our business. International energy interest, about a quarter. And the remaining is some form of federal government. So our mission really is to bring facts and eliminate myths for those who are in the policy business. So we would like everybody to start in a part of the space with a good, clear understanding. I think if you don't do that, then you end up with some incorrect conclusions as we pursue different ways of business. It is our genuine belief that the best form of energy is to put it in the electricity sector. I think that's pretty critical. It's safe to use and actually pretty simple. We all know that. Why? We flip the switch and instantly we have things. So it has become I'll call it the transition form of fuels. The other important thing to recognize is that, frankly, once you get it to an electric form, you don't care where it came from. We could be burning old tennis shoes out here that generate electricity, and once we get it to the form of consuming, then we're spot on. Incidentally, my responsibilities at the Institute is actually about using energy. So you'll see my remarks follow along those lines. I was madly taking notes, and that's why I wanted to kind of deviate from my original script, if you wish. But let me share the biggest myth that I'd like to offer, the biggest myth buster of much of the dialogue this morning. Those that think the electric business has not changed in the last 100 years, you're sorely mistaken. There are dramatic changes that are taking place in the electric business. The thought that the electric business is a fully integrated activity, that's really an old thought. The electricity business is made up of three components: production, delivery, and use. That used to be all within a single corporation. That is really changing. And it has been since, in a dramatic way, since about 1995, which means that this early stage transition is almost 20 years in the making. We have wires companies. All they do is deliver. We have production companies. All they do is produce. And somehow you got to bring all this together and make it work in a cooperative way. Are you familiar with independent system operators? ISOs, rational deviation from historical perspective. And ISOs are all about managing the balance between production and what's getting consumed. So the structure of the industry is really, really shifting. Technologically, quite a revolution on a technological basis as well. Whether it's our newest notions of grid modernization, where we have automation coming in at all levels of process, the debate about is it better to produce it centrally or is it better to produce it on a distributed basis? There's an interesting history. I'm going to suggest a book that you might go and take a look at. It's called Superpower. And it's written by a fellow named Jack Casazza, who has, he's darn near has as much experience in the electric industry as I am old. He's done that for more than 60 years. And one of the interesting things, he traces the history about how did we end up with a national grid anyway. And it all started with, guess what? Distributed generation. And there was two reasons about why we deviated from that plan: reliability and cost. I always like to use this little prompter here about reliability. 15 years ago, if you asked me that I would tolerate the reliability of this device, I would have called you crazy. I had a landline that virtually never failed. This piece of garbage, it only knocked me off 4 times in a 1-hour conversation this morning before I ever got here. The reliability of this sucks. So what am I carrying this around, and why has everybody else in here got one of these? For what reason? Mobility. We made a conscious decision to swap reliability for mobility. So what is O-Power trying to do? Trying to help understand that behavior process that drives decisions about why a person will pick one option over another. And this is the other important business about the electricity business today. It's not about technology, just, certainly part of it. It's not about that electric utility company from yesteryear. This is not your grandfather's solution. And the third component is how people go about making trade-off decisions. Very, very crucial in terms of understanding. So yes, this is a business that is actually in radical transformation, and we're seeing it on every front. I have to comment a little bit about net metering. Very poor strategy. I realize that in the beginning that may have been a nice teaser. It's a terrible long-run strategy, because you heard the presentation from San Diego Gas and Electric that when you just have a little bit of something, it's amazing what you can absorb. But net metering will perpetuate a series of bad practices. The correct way to get at it is feed-in tariffs. I think someone over here cited that earlier. And yes, and one of the reasons that feed-in tariffs are so important, it allows us things to equalize. If you know anything about the ISO business, it's all about balancing the costs of bringing together sources in order to be able to have a consistent supply. So, you know, that's really the key item that I wanted to communicate. So, the supply will be cleaning up, and as the markets go to open competition, there will be opportunities for plenty of clean choices to get mixed up in that supply option. Why do you electrify? Well, there are a lot of reasons. I'm only going to comment on the first 2. I won't get so much into the details of the others. First of all, there is a cleaner fuel mix coming off the grid, and what we should be doing is capitalizing and taking full advantage of that. Secondly is economic development. What you would like to do as the best economic, I've done a lot of reading here recently about what parts of the country have had enormous success in economic development. None any more than where I live in the Tennessee Valley. And there's a very common reason. When they've interviewed the people that show, why did you pick area X and not area Y? 2 reasons. Low-cost energy and reliability. I want to know that the supply is there. So if you're in the economic development business, that's where you need to be putting your focus. There are a lot of markets that can electrify. Here's a collage of those. There are coming technologies. I only want to comment about one, is that electrifying transportation is really, really important. Just to put in perspective, at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, which is sort of viewed to be the benchmark today, an electric gallon is 1/4 the cost of a gasoline gallon. 1/4 the cost. And how many emissions does that represent? And the last topic I want to touch is that there's a whole another family of innovation coming. It's called advanced manufacturing. The stalking horse for advanced manufacturing, a 3D printer. It's a way to do things far more efficiently and effectively, and that will be a device that's a part of the electrification effort. I'm going to stop there and open up for questions.